Good evening, everybody. Welcome in studio. Chad Rosema here as your host on this final day in the month of May. And we start to heat up with the Grand Circuit in town for the first of what will be many, many opportunities throughout the next several months here at Woodbine Mohawk Park as we do kick off the Grand Circuit with graduate legs. We've also got the Some Beach Somewhere, a major prep for the Pepsi North America Cup, which will be right here in 2 weeks' time. I can't believe we're already into that time of the year, despite what the weather is showing outside. As Greg mentioned, it doesn't really make us feel like it's that time of year. But we're going to deal with it. It's hopefully just going to stay dry throughout the night. As I bring in my co-host, racing analyst, the Hall of Famer, Randy Waples. You're no stranger to this time of year, both in and out of studio. Obviously, just an exciting time, but yeah, tonight, we talked about it yesterday. We knew Mother Nature was going to kind of throw us a curveball. It was nice and warm yesterday, and then wind kicks up today, cooler temperatures come in. I mean, horses probably aren't going to mind it, being a bit cooler, but it's also that fluctuation.
That's the part that's the killer, is the fluctuation of the temperature, you know what I mean? If it stays cool, then they're good. If it stays hot, then they're good. But when it keeps going back and forth from hot to cold, sometimes it'll affect their blood. It can affect, fillies, they can go into a different kind of a heat cycle when they shouldn't, be in that. And it's also, there's a thing in our business called tie-up issues, muscle sore issues, tie-up, and that, for whatever reason, really, really will do a number on a horse. That cold, hot, and I mean, so hopefully, within the next couple of weeks, certainly before the NA Cup, it kind of plateaus and gives us just some consistency. That's all we need. Pick one, cold, hot, we're good.
All right. Last night we had 12 dashes to lead us into this final weekend of the month of May, and producer Luke Van Belkom has put together his stats as well, just kind of tracking where the winners came from last night. And we do see a bit of difference now. Again, this is just for now going from the three quarters. Keep in mind the wind was from the northwest at 15 clicks, which I don't think is really going to affect one trip or the other. Last night, that wasn't enough of a significant wind, in my opinion, but a lot of them were first and second and three quarters. But then, race number 7, you see we had one come from 6th, and then in the third race, there was one that came from 4th, which was, beyond mid-pack in that shorter group of 7. So some have been able to make up some ground, but for the most part, since we started showing this the last couple of days, you generally want to be fairly close.
Seems like
for home.
Yeah, it seems like it, and even like with a field of 10, short fields, you could say, oh, well, you can kind of hang back a little bit, but they're staying close. And then even in fields and 10s, they have to be, it seems like, sitting first and second.
Yeah, solid play last night, too, from our patrons. Appreciate that. I think over 2.4 on the 12 race card. Looking for that to be even better here tonight. As for the weather and what we're dealing with, we know we've got cold and we've got some wind that's in there, but the track looks pretty good. You were out there as well. It's got a little cushion to it.
A little bit of a cushion to it, yeah. The biggest thing I think that we have to deal with tonight is just make sure that, the rain stays away. We got just a little...
Are they calling for any?
I don't think so, but they weren't really calling for any last night, and then it kind of started to come down a little bit. It didn't really affect us or anything, but I wouldn't want it to. And the other thing is the wind. The wind's going to cause a little bit of, problems out there, but nothing severe. As long as you, put your handicapping skills in order, you should be able to work with it.
Next Saturday's looking nice, which
good.
is good for eliminations. Actually, the next few days are looking pretty good. But here in Campbellville, we're 12 degrees right now to start. Looks like throughout, the next few hours over the card, we're maybe going to only see that drop a couple degrees. Yeah. So it's not going to be any more of a kind of severe drop. So pretty good out there. But we are getting set for a 13-race card that is, really fun and obviously, some major preps for the NA Cup. And before we dive into our replays, because we've got a bunch to go over, I just want to ask you, because the year that you won the NA Cup with Thinking Out Loud in 2012, he was second in the Some Beach Somewhere. How important is this as a prep?
Oh, yeah. It's very, very important. It used to be called the Burlington
right?
At one time, yeah. It's always been the big prep for the, for the NA Cup, and it's always been an important race to win when it was the Burlington. And to me, nothing against the Burlington, but it's even more important now that it's called, the Some Beach Somewhere because of who that horse was. It's a very important race, in my opinion anyway, to win. And like you said, the prep work, you kind of have a better idea when you start to have these NA colts getting in a group, and then you have a better idea what you have and what the other guy has. You know, sometimes you'll have an NA Cup colt in against, you know, maybe 4 and 5 year olds or some other horses or something, and you can't really get that kind of a feel for them. So yeah, very important, these races, and they were always a big kick to win.
We do have some news that we got to pass along. Some driver changes in race 2. That's Some Beach Somewhere. I would have to think it's going to be the Americans. Assuming they're going to probably be flying here together and not here just yet. So James McDonald will pick up the drive in place of Dexter Dunn on the 4 American Sun. So James McDonald picking up one there for Chris Ryder. Whereas Prince Hal Hanover on the outside, a horse I'm quite fond of, the Hall of Famer Dave Miller, not here, awaiting a driver to be named there. So that is in race number 2 for that one. The next stake will be in the 4th there as well. But Dexter Dunn, I know he's got some other drives. Matt Kikali's in the opener, so I would think that probably means Matt likely came his own route here tonight. So we'll keep you updated with those changes or anything else that happens to come through the night. Let's dive in here, Randy. We've got a lot to talk about. A bunch of replays to go over. An exciting time of year as the Grand Circuit is underway. It got underway actually here in Ontario last night with the Camelot Classic.
Yes, it did.
Congrats to them on a big night.
That's grade 2?
Grade 3.
Grade 3?
Yeah, just like our beaches
Okay.
are here tonight. So yeah, that's new for us, right? Obviously, we very much know that on the thoroughbred side, but yes, graded stakes now in play. There's a look at the opener. A horse that maybe jumps out is Captain's Quarters. We've been sort of wondering, where is he? When's he going to get back? Well, he's got the one qualifier. He's going to draw into a group that, if he is set to go, he can beat them. But he needs some things to go his way because he just has the one prep, and it wasn't anything that you'd write home about, but the 10-hole to boot.
Yeah, for sure.
So some are going to play against him for sure.
I am.
Yep.
Yeah, I'm going to try to play against him. I mean, if he's sharp tonight, you're not going to get any price on him for quite a while. He's a pretty deep horse.
I struggled with this back and forth.
Me too.
I want to try and beat him, but do I beat him?
Yeah.
And then I thought, as we will get into a replay of Captain Fear Not from April 19th, Captain's Quarters, I also feel that he's better when he can chase,
yes,
when he's got a target.
Yeah.
And I think that'll be the trip tonight because it's his first start of the year from an outside post.
Absolutely. They're going to try to get him set up so that this year goes a little bit smoother than last year. I mean, it wasn't a horrible year last year. $450,000 made, that's not exactly a
off year by his standards.
What they were thinking was going to happen and stuff like that. But remember last year, though, he got more or less set up with one qualifier. The first qualifier, they hooked wheels, and they only ended up going a mile like in 2.2 or 2.4.
Yep.
And then the next one was 53, and then right into the races. Now, in this case, I read an article with Herb where he'd said they'd schooled him a couple of times.
Okay.
So I think he's had a couple
like
of...
since...
either before
Gotcha.
or maybe even after.
Yep.
Either way, he's had some fast trips into him, not just this 54 qualifier. So I'm going to throw him in for second, but... Captain Fear Not is the way that I'm going to go in this one here. And we're going to go back to April the 19th to show this replay. Now, this is his very first start of the season. James McDonald in the bike. And I think this is a really, really good one, especially, too, when you look who he was in against. Fortify and Lose World. Two really nice horses to, start your campaign against. Now, he's not going to win this one, but boy, oh boy, I think that if he, gets the right kind of air, I think he comes up with a big win. Now, next start is going to be the 10-hole here. Again, not a bad race. And then he goes to Flamborough for the 2 Juravinskis, wins the one, and finishes 4th in the other. But like I said, coming here, real good. James, 20, 25 feet before the wire, James knew where he was going to finish and laid off. So the rest of it was on coast. I think that's why, considering the way that James prepped him, considering the way that Todd Ratchard prepped him out of the 10-hole in his next start, I think that's why he was so good over at Flamborough. So now Jody's going to get a chance to come right back with this guy in here. Bit of a stale date, but nothing that's going to really bother me. So Captain Fear Not is the way that I'm going to go. But, a lot of question marks with this 10 horse.
Yeah, he does look like the most logical if you are going to try and beat Captain's Quarters. I do think Warwe for Laura is trending in the right direction. I don't know if he's quite this caliber. but he is racing better. I thought he raced pretty well last time. Captain Dale and Storm Shadow are some pretty stout, competition. And I know he didn't threaten them, but he was best of the rest behind that. I've got him into the top 3. The Honolulu Vacation, had he drawn better, maybe I'd have rated him a bit higher, but he's another one that if, you kind of hide him a bit and then let him pace in the stretch, he can pick up some pieces.
Yeah, nice colt. So what's your numbers?
I went 10-7-2-9, so
10-7-2-9.
I'm going to go captain's quarters. I know it's it's asking a lot of him in his debut, and I mean, he's obviously got other things planned, but he's won a seasonal bow in each of his first 2 years of racing, and who knows, maybe he just shows up sharp.
Listen, I mean, maybe
Herb's Barn's been good.
Yeah, or maybe he shows up sharp, and a couple of the ones that could potentially beat him don't show up sharp. That's just going to make it that much better for him. A good pick.
All right, over to race number 2 we go. Some beach somewhere, the grade 3, first of 2 divisions, and I'm totally fine with this. So, I was more than happy to have Dave Miller driving Prince Hal Hanover. Now I pick up Doug McNair. That'll be just fine. I think Dougie has picked up a real live one here for Doc Moore. So there's the update again. Dexter Dunn and Dave Miller looks like not here, at least by race number 2. So we've got some driver changes there with a couple of our top guys picking up drives in this first of 2 divisions for the Sun Beach Somewhere. Let's go right into the Prince Hal Hanover replay. I do want to look back at the most recent drive for him, which was a Pennsylvania Sire Stakes. His first out into the air over a sloppy track. He cut it from the 8-hole. He was asked a lot, went some wicked fractions, and ended up being 3rd in that contest. But then the next start for Prince Hal Hanover, May the 17th, the next try for the Pennsylvania Sire Stakes. He goes to Pocono Downs. He makes a pretty early move to the lead, and then here turning for home when he's got a couple of them coming at him, and certainly no slouches. I think when Dave Miller just turns for home and just asks this guy, look at the big long stride on him. He's just such a well-oiled machine in my opinion. And he steps away in 26-4 to score in 49-3. I think this guy has come back great, and you could see Dave and his body language. He's still got some pretty good lines on him.
Yeah.
Here. So last year's Metro runner-up, I think, has come back great. Doc Moore's got to be excited about his prospects for what this colt can do this year.
Yeah, I mean, what's really interesting too, Chad? So, I mean, he goes to the Meadows, and, they're both Pennsylvania Sire Stakes, and they're both basically going for the same amount of money, right?
Yep.
So it's the top one. He chops it all out of the first week, granted out of the 8-hole, but chops it all out and finishes 3rd. And the horse that finished 2nd in there, I think it's,
Railroad Station.
Right.
Yep.
So then he comes back the next start and basically makes 2 moves to get to the front. And now he's pulling away from them on the end of it. Same horse finishing 2nd. So in my opinion, what has happened is that he needed that first start. Now he's got that under his belt, and he's dramatically improved in that second start, like the way I'm looking at it. So where does this leave us for tonight? I'm going to throw him in for second. Captain Dale is the way that I'm going to go in this one here.
Yeah.
I've been waiting to, see this guy racing against the very, very best ones. I'm pretty high on him. You know what I mean? So Captain Dale is the way I'm going to go with Prince Hal Hanover in for a cool second.
And for him, he's not NA Cup eligible, so he's not using this as a look ahead.
I think he's using this to try to get the dough. He's got
That's what I mean.
this.
That's what I mean. This is his opportunity.
This is his NA Cup.
Is not staked into a ton.
Yeah.
Could be some maybe those 3-year-old invites south the border perhaps for him. Who knows? But Captain Dale has been great, and that was a real determined effort from him last week. I thought against a 4-year-old.
And the other thing is too is like you're talking a 3-year-old. Yeah, he's not eligible to a few things, but if he's got an owner that he's a gambler, Gino. He'll gamble.
Yeah.
And if this horse goes out and races good and beats these colts. Why wouldn't he supplement to a few of them 3-year-old stakes down the road, the ones that he's not eligible to,
Yeah, maybe.
Like I said, Gino will put his money up if he believes in him.
DA Love Boat scares me. I mean, again, we always talk about I love how he performs, but I love how he looks as well. That's just the most, powering thing I see with him is just how he looks. And I don't think the front is necessarily his trip.
Agreed.
I get it last time. He's heavily favored. He's on the lead. He gets picked off by Joel and the Jets, who was a good one. Unfortunately, he scratched later. But when you look at this race, I would have to think Prince Hal Hanover's controlling it, right? Doc Moore loves his horses, put into play. I think he ends up controlling this relatively early. That gives D.A. Loveboat a chance tonight, I believe, to chase a target, which could be better. And, Jack, when he won the gold last week, talked about it, and he said, yeah, this guy, he knows. He's going to have to step it up.
Yeah, I agree with everything you said, but I see it more that Dougie and Bobby come out of there together.
Yep.
But Dougie makes front,
Yep.
And I think Bobby does a remove. I
Maybe,
think he comes up, but
maybe.
either way,
D
you're
is
still
chasing.
on a helmet.
Yes.
Chasing.
Yeah.
And you're really not going to get away any worse than third,
Yeah,
potentially.
James has got a good one in American Sun as well. I understand he had that one race where, maybe the connections thought he should have gone by. He still raced all right, but I heard he had a throat procedure since then. That's what I understand. So he's had a couple of qualifiers getting set. We're going to skip over the third. That starts the early pick four. It is the preferred here tonight. Looking forward to talking about that a little bit later on. Sorry now, fresh off his 47-4 wicked effort. How about race number 4? This is our first of two divisions for the Graduate Series as it gets underway. The opening leg here, I think the next 2 legs are at the Meadowlands and then the final in early July there as well. So we've got a group of 8. A horse like Captain Luke maybe jumps off based on kind of a household name.
What he's done the last 2 years.
Right, and remember, this was one that was bought late last season by these connections who have just invested so much money in the game. It was
what Noel Daly had him before, wasn't it?
Yeah, I think it was. Yeah, because
okay.
McCarthy drove.
Right. Yeah, I think so.
So Dexter slated to drive this one here. He's going to get some play. You and I are going to ride together, however, on one in the center of the gate that I'm not going to really read into those Juravinski, tries for Chain Gang. I'm looking more at how he was here in his first couple of starts. And I think Trevor Henry, for whatever reason, fits this horse to a T.
So you're going Chain Gang up on top?
Yeah, I'm with you.
And did you send the replay in? Because that's the replay I want to show.
I can't remember if I did.
Well, that's the replay I sent in.
Well, either way, we've got one on
right,
May the 3rd.
But the same reason, though.
Okay.
I thought it would be better to show the replay where he raced the Graduate on this track as opposed to what was going on in the Juravinski. You can see
Canadian
that on
Graduate, too, but against great ones.
Right. Now, on the Juravinski, I will say that break, that was just because he was humming him out of there into the first turn. He got kind of tight quarters, and, he made it a little bit of a bobble.
He's not a small horse either. I'm not sure the half is great for
not
him,
100% sure either, you know what I mean? And like I said, Trevor had him marching there, but he's got him racing real good here. I thought it was a great opportunity, to get the win, and it was a good race, though. Fun time by Alma, end up, being the winner in that race. Century Komodo in for second, but, for a horse that was only making his second start back, that was a pretty good effort in against that bunch. So I'm going to go with Chain Gang as well up on top in here. And I'm going to throw in the outside horse, Gem Quality, in for second. I know the lines aren't exactly, fantastically good right now, but I'll go back, and this is nothing against anybody, but if you remember, who was the good horse that Doc Moore had a couple of years ago? Louis was driving him in the Canadian Pace and Derby. Tattoo Artist.
Yeah.
And a lot of times when, he'd get a little bit stale in Chris's barn, and then he'd send him up here, and that horse would just fire. I don't know if it's just because he got along with Doc Moore, or if it was because he just liked the Canadian weather. But we've seen this before. So I think Gem Quality could come up with a big effort first start with Doc Moore on this guy. Dave Miller going to be driving him as well, fingers crossed. And then I threw Captain Luke in in for third. Yeah,
an A-class Yankee. I know you're intrigued to see how he's going to stack up. I'm sure the connections are excited to see. How does he stack up against this kind of a bunch?
Yeah, especially because I think that the connections have really done a great job with this horse. So I want to see if it's all going to pay off for them.
Let's talk 5th race. Pacing mares here. Now winners a 2 group to wrap the first of what will be 3 opportunities for you to play the pick 5. The early one, of course, guaranteed at $75,000. Race number 5 features a full field of 10. I Am Liking Always Dawn. I thought she raced well in her first start of the season. She was maybe a little aggressive early. James had to try to get her to settle. Then she came first over against a good one for Luke Blay and Charlotte Station. I think she can move up off of that effort. James was listed on her, and I know he's going to go to the 5 forever after all, and this one's in great form right now.
She's in really good form, and she's the way that I'm going to go tonight there. I got Always Dawn in for third. She's getting an interesting shoeing change tonight. She's going to go from steel to aluminum up front, so Kevin looking for a little bit more speed from Always Dawn. And with the way that the track is right now, they resurfaced it probably last week, and we didn't get much rain last night, so it's still, it's still a little bit cuppy, I would guess. I think the aluminum shoes will suit her very well. All My Wishes, Dexter Dunn picking this one up for Chantel. I threw this one in for second, but yeah, Forever After All, and we're going to look at the replay in her last start. And I thought that this was a really good replay. Now, she's going to make a move around the last turn, going to see some air out there, and she's going to keep going forward, and she's only going to win this race by a neck. But a couple of reasons. Number one, 52-3. That was a big drop to where she had been pacing. And the other thing is, too, her last race before this was May the 2nd. So 17 days in between two races.
Yep.
I thought that this was an incredibly good effort. You know, when you consider that she just missed it by 3 weeks. That would have been quite a bit of time off, you know? So I thought that this was a good one. Yes, Trevor's going to make a bit of a run at her here and put a bit of a scare into the whole situation. But again, I think that Murray, you know, his mare will only get better on the good rotation. So Forever After All is the way that I'm going to go in this one.
I like Chantel's All My Wishes, and then I ended up using Promising Moment on the bottom. It's intriguing to me because Tyler Borth was listed on this one.
And
Candy Kiss
right.
and All My Wishes, but it was more or less him going away from Candy Kiss because he has taken her
every time
over many others, right? And now goes to Promising Moment, who he drove last fall when Susie had her here for the Harvest Series.
Yeah.
She raced well in the first couple, didn't work out in the final, but obviously it's one Tyler likes.
Yeah, absolutely.
You know?
Yeah, I agree with you there. I think that, you know, down on the bottom, you can look, take a look at that. And myself, I mean, I don't know where it's going to end up, but I just don't see Candy Kiss with Miller driving going off at 10-1 morning line. I think she's going to take more support than that.
Yeah. All right. That's the fifth race. Race number 6, starting the mid-pick 5, is the only division needed for the opening round of this graduate series for the 4-year-old Open Trotters. We've got a field of 9. You've got mares like Warwi Michelle, last year's Oaks winner, Date Night Hanover, closing on a millionaire status in here. Oka Svanstedt sends out, 4? In this spot? Yeah, 4. Melander's got a couple in here. Luke Blay always into the mix as well with Private Access. Nice little group, but Amazing Catch, last year's Canadian Trotting Classic winner, returns here. And this is actually going to be his first start for Greg Luther Racing. And this horse set the record last year at Harrisburg. 1.85 million US is what they shelled out for him. US.
Yeah.
Randy Waples.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. That's just what's in your left pocket, my friend.
Yeah. Yeah. I was gonna say if it's inflated to your salary here, but here he is in the May 17th qualifier. He's had a couple of them. This is the most recent, and I know the line says, he held on by a nose, but I thought he looked pretty good doing it.
Yeah, he did, and I mean, we've seen this scenario before with with Oka there. They'll miss a lot of time, and then he'll bring them in here. It'll only be like one qualifier. In this case, he gives us 2, but they're ready to go. I think it's just his training schedule. You know, he's got them good to go, and plus, nothing against Oka, but you're going from Oka to Dexter Dunn as well. That's got to be a little bit of a difference.
And Oka could have probably picked who he wanted to drive.
Right.
He ends up going Warwi Michelle, who we're actually going to see here in her May 17th qualifier because she was in it with Date Night Hanover. Both of them. Marmelina, was really good in this qualifier, but Warwi Michelle and Date Night Hanover, I thought, were both very good as well. 26-4 final quarter kickers. To me, based on just that one line, they're both well prepped and ready for the races.
Yeah, I agree with you. I think they're both ready to go as well, And I mean, I'm going to go Amazing Catch, and I'm going to throw Date Night Hanover in for second. So Where We Michelle in for third. And then on the bottom, I'm going to throw in Mars Hill. A local horse that's starting to race a little bit better. I know he's got the rail, a little bit of a tricky rail situation, but overall, I think he's starting to show into kind of better form. And, the speed is there, the ability is there. It's just a matter of whether, he's going to come up with it or not. So I like the way that they brought him back. I think that they've done a really, really good job prepping him up for this one. So we could get a big effort out of Mars Hill, but I got to go with the Melander and Aki Svanstedt too up on top.
I used both mares underneath. Amazing Catch in here, as you did, but then I tossed in Luke Blay's Private Access. I'm sure they were obviously hopefully he'd win more than one time last year, but we've seen him.
He's got ability.
Oh, does he ever?
Yeah, for sure.
He's got a ton of talent.
Yeah, nice strong horse too.
And he's been no preps for him other than the morning, qualifiers. We know it's different when you go
but Luke's a
qualifiers
lot
to racing.
Like Oka that way. He can bring them in with very
and they're
little.
Be ready to go, and that's
ready
the thing.
To go.
Just when you think you can, take them lightly, they show up with an effort that you're like, oh my God, I didn't think that horse was going to go 52 tonight.
Yeah, well, we've seen the same thing even in the SBOA. I think Day and Wondrous Blue Chip were making their first starts. Boom, they both won.
Yeah. All right. Race number 7 is where we head to next year. Full group of 10 on the pace. Nominators of 17,000 last time, so it's a pretty good looking group as well. One of the more top level classes that we do have in here. Morning line favorite is Jabberwocky on the outside again.
Yes.
I'm sure Zeron didn't enjoy seeing that entry box.
No, and he's going to shoeing change on him too. He's going to go from aluminum to steel.
Yeah.
Up
You went to him last week, didn't you?
On this guy. Yes, I
Yeah.
did. But he just, he really never did anything out there, and he never did a whole lot on the end of it. And I know sometimes Rick has problems with his feed and stuff like that, you know what I mean, where he just has to basically take what Jabber's going to give him. But when he gets him right, we know what he can do then. Is he going to be right tonight? I don't know. Does he need to be right to beat this field? I don't think so. So I'm using him, in for second, but I am going to go Dragon on the Beach. I've been waiting for this guy since they've came back on him. The qualifier to me was an okay qualifier. First start suffered a little interference on the end of it there, but went off at 20-1, and I kind of thought he raced like a little bit of a 20-1 shot. Next start, he took all the marbles, finished second in there, but again, I wasn't really that impressed with him. Next start, he finishes third in here off of a little bit of interference at the half, and I put beside his name, he's ready. So this is where I'm going to go here. I know he's not going to, a lot of people are going to say, well, he wasn't that good, but to me, each week he showed improvement, but this week he really showed improvement. You can see him with J-Mac on the outside. He's chasing Travis right now. Goes around the rest of them, no problem whatsoever, and really Louis shakes loose, but he's not going to be any issue whether. Chases them right to the wire. I know that it's not flashy or anything like that, but to me, each time it's a step forward. And this week, I'm going to take a chance with Dragon on the Beach in here, coming back to the non-winners of $17,000. But I think he's got the back class that, he can beat these horses.
So what we didn't see in that replay, because if we had gone a little bit further back, we would have seen they got jammed up in the backstretch. Jack Panic taking the brunt of that early, and he ends up making the interference break. Well, then that bothers others, including Dragon on the Beach.
Dragon on the Beach.
He had to kind of quickly scatter around it. Larceny took a big interference in that as well.
Is that where you went?
I didn't go. I couldn't. I just couldn't use him.
But last night you were
he was so good in that race after what he dealt with, and then live on the end of it there. I mean, maybe I would sprinkle him underneath to try and spice up some exotics, but
you're saying he's in great form.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. He's in great form. I went back to Which Way to the Beach. I think it's a big moment for Travis Henry because, you obviously have our top guys he's going to race against, but now Dexter Dunn's thrown into the mix. You've got, him in here. It's a real deep group, but he's got a good horse. I know he was caught in last week and it didn't work out late. I don't know. Did he lose his interest, whatever it may be? I just know he's too much of a horse that's better than what he showed in his most recent. So I'm going to go back to Which Way to the Beach, and hopefully it's a better result here tonight. 3-2-10-6 for me.
I know he raced in the non-winners of 17,000 last week there, you know what I mean? But, you think about what he's been racing against before that.
Yeah.
He might need a couple of trips in here to really show, you know what I mean? Because he was racing the very, very top class, and they were racing him too, it wasn't like they were just sitting there trying to knock money off. They were racing him. So I think that the second week in this class is going to be better. I threw him in on the bottom of my ticket.
All right, let's go to the next division of the Sun Beach Somewhere for these 3-year-olds prepping for the Pepsi North America Cup Grade 3 event in race number 8, which does offer a bunch of wagering opportunities. Every horse in here, even the one that is Scratch Joel and the Jets, they are all, after the third and final sustaining payment, they are all eligible to the upcoming NA Cup. So tonight could be decision time for some. Noticeably absent this week. In talking last week to Blake McIntosh, it looked like he was going to go this route with Sterling Choice, but then ended up, changing their mind a couple days later. He came out of the race well, I read, and just said, we're going to go right into the NA Cup elimination, because that's the thing for the Ontario side horses. If you were in the SBOA, then the gold, now this, then eliminations, then it's a lot of weeks in a row.
Well, when you interviewed him last week, and
Chad.
Yeah, and when he said about the fact that if he races him this week, it's going to end up being like 6 or 7 races in a row when he gets to the NA Cup. That's too much. You need a break in there somewhere. I'm sure it's killing Blake because this horse is cracking good right now, and I'm sure he'd love to race him here. But I think all in all, I think Blake's making the proper decision. You know, you can't race a 3-year-old 30 starts a year and expect them to be, you know, on their game. You kind of got to pick and choose a little bit. So definitely going to be missed in here tonight, but I'm going to go 3 in here.
Yeah, I can't blame you.
Yeah,
I got him rated highly as well.
A lot of people are going to go 6. Light Up
that's
the
where I
World.
went.
Yeah,
Yep,
well, I got him in for
backwards from you.
second. I got Aquinas Hanover, who I've been really liking. Got him in for third. Court's on Fire. You know, I'm supporting Blake with this one. Got him in for fourth. But Bourbon County is the way that I'm going to go for Paul Reed and Trevor Henry. And let's take a look at this guy's last replay, because I thought that this was an incredibly good locked-in effort. Now, if I was to show you the last qualifier, I think you'd be pretty impressed with that one, too. The one where he's in against D.A. Loveboat, comes off of his back, and I mean, just absolutely motors home in 26-2. But take a look at this one. Trevor makes a dash to the inside. He's pylon skimming right now, looking to get up the inside of Jody. Gives him a couple of taps. Now, what's he going to do here? Is he going to go forward, or is he just going to hang? He goes forward, moves forward again, and always be Mickey Colt here. So a little bit of laziness, but at all times, he's moving forward on them, but they're not moving forward on him. So I'm going to go Bourbon County in here. I think he needed that first start, much better post position to work with in here. And I think that, you know, if Trevor is able to leave a little bit like those qualifiers and keep them close, I think that he's going to be that much better. But I liked what I saw last week.
I would say Light Up the World, even though in just a handful of starts over the first 2 seasons for him, he's arguably one of our top 3-year-olds. You know, here locally, gives us a great opportunity if he's feeling good, right? I know last year he had his season cut short, but he's come back. He's 2 for 2 so far this year. That first one was very good. This one here, a bit of a different trip. You know, he to Brown to the outside, then a brief tuck again, and then here. I mean, to me, he just looks all business.
Yeah, he does.
You know, if power's home.
Yeah, if Paul McDonnell or if Scott McKelvey, you know, father to Mark, happens to be watching, do me a favor, would you? Has a trainer ever gone back-to-back in the NA Cup? Because Beaton might have an opportunity this year.
Yeah,
do you remember?
Yeah, possibly.
I don't remember.
Yeah, I mean, I have to quickly look back.
Yeah, but I don't remember it.
And
I don't ever remember a trainer going back to back in the NA Cup. So that'll be very, very interesting. You know, I can only think of a couple that would maybe, you know, would have had that opportunity. Maybe, you know, Robinson or something would be one of them, because I know.
Didn't Nancy Tactor go back to back when she won?
Maybe
were Captain Crunch and Tall Dark Stranger back to back?
I don't know.
That.
They were.
Oh,
there you go.
There
you go.
Okay.
Nice pick there. But again, now we got an opportunity, you know, maybe Tony Beaton is going to be able to come, you know, back to back, because obviously I agree with you. Light Up the World, really good now. But, you know, much like Bourbon County, he's going to take a big step forward here from non-winners of 2 into this bunch. So we'll have to see which one's going to get the better trip. I'm thinking that maybe Trevor can land on Light Up the World's back.
Yeah, maybe. Yeah. Deep group. Carl Jameson went back to back.
Wow, goodness. No, sports writer was Casey.
That was Casey Coleman.
Yeah, that was Casey.
Yeah, I was gonna say. I remember. I think Carl's just got the one.
Yeah, he had no. Yeah, up the credit. Yeah, right. Yeah, yep.
All right. Race number 10 is where we head to next. It is the other division for the graduate 4-year-old Pacers. A field of 7 in here. And we've got Fun Tambayama back in town. He stayed tuned up after his Canadian graduate victory, where he was much straighter. Remember that Murphy blind was taken off, something James had said, you know, he didn't think he needed it. But he was very good. Looks like he's really come around for them. Good qualifier for him on May the 24th to get ready for this spot. But then Nijinsky, he's into the mix. What did you think of his effort? Off the shelf, 4-year-old debut against older horses, and one of them is the horse that's just been streaking in Brew Hanover.
He's going on top. Yeah, Nijinsky,
but what do you think of his effort there? Like just exactly what you'd want from a horse.
He's going
kicking
on top
off this season. Okay,
that's the best way to respond to you. He's going
All
up
right.
on top. Yes,
Okay.
I really like the way that he raced. I love the way that Louis did it. I mean, you know, it's got to be you know, like incredibly tough for a guy like Louis. You know, you go out there, or for Tony Beaton, or for the owners of Nijinsky. You know what you got. You know that he's probably ready to come up with a big effort. But to the same effect, you can't hurt him to do it. You know what I mean? You cannot hurt him that first start back. You can win, but you got to do it in a kind of a cute sort of a fashion, I think, you know, and I think that Louis did an incredible job with him. You know, if he goes up against this horse that's up on top right now, it could have hurt him. Maybe he would have beat him. Who knows? I don't think he did. I don't think he would have. I think it would have just hurt him to do it. Instead, he did the right thing by him, beat a lot of nice horses in behind him.
Irvin Hanover. Right.
But was able to get to this guy, and I think that he's going to vastly improve in here tonight, heading into a straight group of 4-year-olds. Yes, Funtime by Alma is a very tough horse, really, really nice horse. Would absolutely love to own him. I think that this could be a big year for Funtime by Alma because he has come back really, really good. Yep. But in my opinion, at no point last year as a 3-year-old was Funtime by Alma had the advantage on Nijinsky. I always put Nijinsky ahead of him. I don't see anything that's changed so far this year, so it's going to be, with me, it's going to be 6 on to the 1.
Yeah, me too. Yeah, I'm going to go the same direction.
What's your numbers? Because I think there's a couple we probably went
So I've got 4 or 5 in behind. I know you do have the 5 into the mix, Storm Shadow, but time is on my side. I mean, he set up those wicked fractions last week, and to be honest with you, he had every reason to tire.
Yeah.
But he still hung on to 3rd, against those preferred types. I think, even if he gets aggressive early, I still think he can maybe factor in, and then Storm Shadow, I thought, raced tough last week, but you've got Calico Jack, right?
Yeah, what a deep group, because I used Time is on my side last week, and I used Storm Shadow, last week. Now I'm still using Storm Shadow in there as well, but I'm not using Time is on my side. So really, you can really make a case for just about everybody in here.
All right, so that's the 10th race graduate as the Grand Circuit is in town. Looking forward to that. We've got 3 opportunities yet again for the pick 5. We were so close to having a carryover last night too, and in the early one nonetheless, which was the big pool. You've got an early pick 5 that you have put together here. A bunch of 2s early on. Who's your single there in the 4th? Chain Gang.
That is going to be Chain Gang. I'm going to pull the trigger on the big fella and see what happens there. But more or less logical, Chad. I didn't get too crazy on the cost. So Captain Fear Not, Captain's Quarters in the 1st. 2nd race, I'm going to go II Captain Dale, Prince Hal. Race number 3, it's going to be the 1 and the 2, Soaring Now. And I'm going to put Odds on Capitalism. He's going to be my top pick in the preferred. I'm looking for a bit of a price with him. And then in race 4, Chain Gang's going to be my single. Race 5, I'm going to go 3 deep. I'm using the 2, the 4, and the 5, Forever After All, going to be my top pick.
All right, and producer Luke also telling us correctly this time. Bill Robinson went back-to-back. Yeah, so 93-94 Presidential Ball and Cam's Card Check. Yeah, you remember that one.
Something, that was one of the only times in my life there, whatever, that the entire Greenwood grandstand applauded that horse when they come into the winter.
I was there for it.
Wasn't that?
Yeah. I got your dad's autograph.
Did you really?
I don't know where it is, but I got your dad's autograph.
No way.
Yeah.
Who would I have ever liked to have had that one time in my life?
I didn't get his wallet.
I would have liked to have had that one time in my life too.
No, he was awesome about it. I was there with John Newell.
Oh, okay.
And he said, "Oh, come on down." He's, I know Ronnie well. He said, "Here, we'll get an autograph." So it was pretty cool because I would have been 13 at the time. I just always remember too, and if they ever get a chance, I know that it's on YouTube, and if you get a chance to watch it there, my father's not much for speeches, and in fact, very few words would come out of him, and it was a huge round of applause when they went in. I remember my father, when they interviewed him, saying, "I just want you guys to know, I really appreciate the applause, but just so that you guys know, that is for the horse and for the groom." And then he mentioned the groom's name that looks after this horse. They deserve all the applause, the whole deal. And I just thought it was a really, really kind of a nice moment. Okay, awesome stuff. Let's go talk Pepsi North America Cup, because that's just 2 weeks away. It's going to be such a huge night. It's almost our kickoff to summer. And you can get a free hat. You can get a free hat if you show up here nice and early. I don't know the exact details, but I would think doors are probably opening at 5. There's going to be, probably even earlier, being told. There's going to be so much on the go here. They'll have everything set up for everyone of all ages. Bring the entire family. Mother Nature, Randy swears she's going to be cooperative. We're going to have a great night on that Saturday, and a national broadcast as well on Game Plus. If you unfortunately can't make it out and you want to get some more dedicated coverage, it'll be a great card, because obviously we have the Pepsi North America Cup. There it is, 10 p.m. is when that's going to hit the airwaves, as they kicked off primetime racing last night in London with the Camelot Classic. But any Cup, Fan Hanover will be on the undercard, the Good Times, Yarnborough Flight, the Roses Are Red, Gold Cup Invitational. Stacked. Yeah, it'll be stocked. And I mean, just stocked with so much talent, and it'll be a full house as far as the betting menu goes, because I would think we're probably in the neighborhood of 13 races.
Yeah.
Right.
So that'll be 3 pick fives.
3 pick fives. And I know a lot of times they like to do the all stakes pick five where they'll guarantee it at a big number as well.
Yep. And you'll be up calling. So just
I'm excited, to be, getting set to call my first Pepsi North America Cup.
Yeah.
Nice.
And I think that we might have a couple of, Elisa Blow and maybe Johnny Rollis.
Yeah, Johnny's going to be in here. Yeah, so that's going to be awesome too. So we're going to be well covered here in studio. Looking forward to that. Should be a great night. And I understand that the draw is going to be a bit different this year for the post position. It's going to be on the Monday. At 5 p.m.
Isn't that cool?
I just found that out yesterday.
Yeah. When did they come up with that idea?
I'm not sure, because normally, as you know, we do a big festivity. It's usually on the Tuesday, and there's a luncheon and stuff where I indulge. But they said, Rosema, you're just eating too much, so we're going to go to this other route. But no, that's going to be fun. Looking forward to that at 5 p.m. on Monday, June the 9th, where the post positions will be drawn for that Pepsi North America Cup final.
So your Yeti broke the draw.
That's right.
It broke the draw luncheon. All right.
You know it. Plays of the night here, Randy. Your 4-pack right off the bat. All in on Captain Fear Not.
All in on the shoulders of Captain Fear Not. He's going to be my all-in the race number 7. My Waples Watch is going to be Dragon on the Beach. Race 8, Worth a Look, Bourbon County. And Beat the Favorite. It's going to be reigning captain, but you're going to have to wait around till race number 12 to watch that one.
All right. I don't think we share any tonight. What do I have here? I'm going to go Right Near Rose as Beat the Fave in that third race preferred. I think this one could step up as well. Call to Upset Chain Gang. I mean, I think he'll get bet, but I don't think he'd be the favorite. I
don't think so either.
In there, right? Which Way to the Beach to rebound, and I'm all in on Nijinsky. I don't know what to expect for a price. 4 to 5, even money, maybe.
I think if you get 4 to 5, you're going to be pretty. That's a good number.
I'll take it. Yeah. Johnny Rollis going Captain Luke for his spot play in race number 4. Codename Cigar Box for Gislain. He says he's ready to win.
I agree.
And Major Fernco for Garnet Barnsdale as his spot play in the 11th. All the best to them with their handicapping throughout the great night. Always a fun time of year to handicap these races. We've got 13 for you to play. And we kick it off with the $75,000 guaranteed early pick 5. We'll get you an update here with the changes, and then we'll set things up for the Saturday night opener.